Welcome into the In the Money podcast for KeenelandSelect.com. I'm Tom Leach in Baltimore, joined by Jonathan Fowler from Keeneland Select. And we're going to talk about the All-Stakes Pick 4 of the Preakness Stakes card, culminating with the Grade 1 Preakness. Before we do that, just a quick note, something we mentioned in the Friday Black-Eyed Susan Day podcast about the simulcasting in the Lexington market. It's only at the Red Mile, not at Keeneland Racetrack. So just at the Red Mile if you're at the Lexington market for simulcasting and your regular outlets elsewhere around the state. All right, Jonathan, let's go to the Grade 3 Gallette handicap. It's the 10th race on the card. I would expect the turf will be somewhat soft. They've had a lot of rain in this area in recent weeks. The latest forecast as we tape this has backed off the rain a little bit, so maybe we'll get lucky on Saturday, but it had called at one point for 100% chance of rain on Saturday. So we'll certainly handicap with the idea that it could be a softish turf course. Who do you like at the Gallette?
I'm not going to get too crazy with this race, but I'm going to the outside for my top pick in the number 12, Heath. This was a filly that I really liked at Keeneland when she started back in late April. Actually, I think almost in that final week. And she set off the pace that day. It was on a soft turf course, and that's one of the reasons why I'm moving her up on my list. Florent Giroux gets aboard this horse, and I just really like this jockey in the past couple of years, and I just really like him. Horse is solid at the distance. Last summer, actually last May, she finished a very strong second to Lady Eli, and we all know how good she is. So I think this horse is coming back into form, making the second start off the layoff. So she's going to be my top choice. You know, just because of the outside post, I'm also going to use the number 3, Tiger Ride, who's dropping in class from a couple graded events, including the Jenny Wiley. So I got to use her. Also going to use the Joe Sondamo, Mark Casse train, making the second start with this filly. I think this one has a lot of potential to move up in class. And then I'm not going to use this horse in my pick 4, but going to use it in some of my exotic plays. The number 6, Nisha Aurora, was a solid third in the Dahlia at Laurel last month, and she was blocked in most of that race and got out, and then she was able to move up a little bit. So just as an outside chance, using that one in some exotic plays. But for my pick 4, the 3, Tiger Ride, 8, Geronimo, and then the outside 12, Heath.
I thought this was a race that didn't really have a clear standout either. I ended up picking the 5, Old Fashioned Gal, and the only reason I went for her over Heath was because of the post position, because I'm like you, I thought Heath was real impressive at Keeneland, and I would, for a win pick, go to Old Fashioned Gal, but actually in betting the race, I'd want to, not rather than key on her, I'd just put her at Heath in an exacta box with others that you like. I think there's a good chance one of those two certainly finishes in the top 2. But third off the layoff for Old Fashioned Gal I liked, and she ran well in her first 2 starts off the long layoff. Heath is a must-use. Tiger Ride I like. Ms. Money a little bit I liked. And Ginger and Rye the 10. So 5, 12, 3, 9, 10 for me. But, if your budget allowed it, I could even be talked into going all on this race, only because Heath is drawn poorly and compromises her chances perhaps a little bit. But she might be able to overcome it as a late runner. The 11th race is the Sir Barton, for 3-year-olds at a mile of the 16th. He had Sarava come out of this race and win the Belmont several years back. So this is a horse that can produce some future stars. I ended up going to American Freedom, a horse I picked to the Pat Day Mile off just one start. Didn't run well in the Pat Day Mile. And with just 2 starts under its belt, I was just kind of surprised to see Baffert bring this horse here. So I'm really kind of handicapping the humans here. The Baffert wheels this horse back in 2 weeks. Also, the pedigree says he should be better at 2 turns than 1 out of a Pleasant Tap mare. So I'm going to go in confidence in Baffert and go with American Freedom here. Dazzling Gem is the next one that I think I could go just with those 2 in the pick 4. If you want to go deeper, I'd go to Donegal Moon, the 6, the horse that I liked in the Bluegrass Stakes a little bit, and then just didn't run very well, but it run exceptionally well in the previous start. So consider Donegal Moon, 5, 7, and then 6 if your budget allows. Who do you like in the Sir Barton?
Yeah, I agree with you on a couple of those horses. Some of the ones that I'm looking from an outsider's standpoint is the number 3 Kingslayer. Wasn't a huge fan of the last race, but just held on for an allowance race at Parks, but looked at its maiden win, and that was in the mud at Parks, and this horse won by daylight. This is a big step up in class. You just never know how they're going to perform when they move up in class. But if there is a muddy track, I really like this horse, not only because of that performance, but because of Ghost Zapper. He really knows how to get horses that run well over a muddy surface. So that's my price horse in this race. I'm also going to use American Freedom. I did not like him in the Pat Day Mile that day, but he did break poorly that day. He kind of bobbled and got squeezed a little bit, so he had some excuses there. The 7, Dazzling Jim, has run against some very good horses in the Louisiana Derby and the Arkansas Derby. And then I'm going to go to the outside again with Gettysburg, and I may just throw him out just because of the post position. But I think he's going to have enough speed to get in position before that first mile or first turn, and he doesn't have to get the lead. He's definitely set off the pace before, so as long as he can maneuver over, I think he may have a good shot. So tentatively, me the 3, 5, 7, and 14.
Let's go to the 12th race, the Grade 2 Dixie on the turf, mile on the 16th for 3-year-olds and up, and a big, well-matched field here. Who did you land on?
This is actually my race where I might hit the all button. They're very evenly divided here. Some very good talent coming in here. Some that are very talented but coming off layoffs, such as Approval, so I'm not using him for that reason alone. But here, my top choice is actually the 9, Ring Weekend. He's coming off more than a year layoff, but this horse races really well off long layoffs. He won the Frank Kilroy Mile at Santa Anita back in March of 15, being off of a 5 or 6 month layoff. So he knows how to get a win. He's a very talented colt. John Velasquez is aboard with Grand Motion. So I'm just taking an outside chance with him. The other horses I'm intrigued about is 11, Force the Pass. This horse comes in. This would be his second start off a layoff after a very close third in the Appleton. So I'm using those two kind of on top, but also throwing in the 12, Take the Stand, and then also the number 4, Take Over Target. This is just a consistent colt out of the Chad Brown barn, so you kind of have to use him as well. So 4, 9, 11, 12 in the Dixie.
I'm going to take the 2, ZA Approval, just because this horse has run well off layoffs before, and out of a with approval mare, I think that pedigree should really like the soft turf, and from what I've heard, this horse has really worked exceptionally well. 8-year-old coming off a layoff, I don't normally like that angle. Not when you see that often in a big race like this, but I'll put some faith in Mark Cassey and take ZA Approval, but it's a little bit of a shaky pick. So I like Take Over Target too. I like Grand Arch, Ring Weekend I've got on my list, and also Long on Value. I always got to watch Bill Mott on these big days. He's dangerous, so that one intrigues me a little bit as well. But there are others in here that I could be talked into. So as your budget allows, I'm going to let you be guided by your budget, but to try to limit it, I'm going to stick with those 5. Finally, the 13th race is the Grade 1 Preakness. I'm going to give Exaggerator one more shot. He loves the off track, and he may get that. Even if he doesn't, I think there's a lot of speed in this race. Where Nyquist is drawn in the 3-hole tactically, it's a real interesting race because you got about 6 horses that want to be on or close to the lead, and he's got to decide either it could be dangerous to try to clear all that speed, and if he doesn't, could he get boxed in a hole from the 3 spot down the rail? So I think Mario Gutierrez is in a real tricky spot here, and Exaggerator is just in the Santa Anita Derby was kind of ridden differently to go farther back and make one late run. And if that is truly the best way for that horse to run right now, then that version of Exaggerator is only 0 for 1 against Nyquist. So on all of those points, I'll give a shot to Exaggerator at a little better price. And I think the way I'll play the race is just to box Exaggerator and Nyquist, and the exact will be a little more with Exaggerator on top. And then I'm going to box Exaggerator and Stradivari. And if Nyquist should get kind of trapped in a box down there, those two could end up with a really nice pan exacta if Nyquist were to, say, run third. And Stradivari is giving away a lot of experience, but that horse was so impressive at Keeneland, and both visually and from a numbers perspective, that we know that Nyquist is better than all the others. I think that's been proven. Could even be true, certainly, for Exaggerator. We don't know that he's better than Stradivari. So just on the potential that's there, I think Stradivari is one that you could certainly make a case for. But I wish you could get a better price. I could make a stronger case for him at a better price than I think we'll get. He'll probably be a little overbet. What about you?
I'm actually right on par with you. I'm actually looking at Nyquist on top, but that whole Stradivari angle, just watching him here at Keeneland, it just opened your eyes and said, what could this colt potentially be? He was never asked at all in that race at Keeneland and just opened by daylight. I mean, he was really impressive. I think really the handicapping comes down to not first place, but literally those second, third, and fourth places, because some of these horses you just really aren't sure what they're going to do. Besides, there is going to be a ton of speed in this race, and it's kind of coming from all over the place. I'll be really intrigued to see who actually sets the pace. But we do know that Uncle Lino, Awesome Speed, and then some other horses like Collected, Laubin, Abiding Star. These are all horses that just are really set on being on the lead. Stradivari is one of those coming from the outside. I'm not so much worried about his post position because he's going to have plenty of time to get over and kind of get positioned. So I think he's going to be sitting probably in the 2 or 3 path behind all of that early speed, and I think he's going to have a really good look at the rest of the field. Nyquist being in that 3-hole, I think he's going to get some good positioning. He's got Awesome Speed to his outside. Exaggerator will drop back. Lonnie will drop back. So I don't think he'll get that trapment on the inside. Mario Gutierrez has done this before, so I have a very good feeling. If it does come up sloppy, that is another question he really has to answer. He did have a bit of had that sloppy trap at Florida Derby and excelled there. So I don't think that will be a big hindrance for him. I think it really comes down to, like what you said, is can he beat Stradivari? That's the big question. He's beat every other horse. I think that's the big thing. So I'm just, in this, for the pick 4, I'm just using the 311, but I would definitely box Nyquist, Exaggerator, and Stradivari in any of your inter-race wagers.
And we wish you best of luck on your Preakness Day handicapping, and make sure you keep your Keeneland Select account fully funded. You might catch if you're not at the track or at the simulcast, you might catch a late overlay. You can take advantage of it that way through Keeneland Select. For Jonathan Fowler, I'm Tom Leach, and that's the In the Money podcast from KeenelandSelect.com.